everybody, Dan Schinder here with
Steven Schinder
on Yes Shift to celebrate Benoit David's birthday. We'll give you a little intro here. And we're going to save those guys for a little later. That's a pretty adventurous song to have him do because it's such a vocal feature, you know, of a different singer. Jon Anderson, of course. Benoit David, only the third singer to join Yes, of only four. So interesting. What do you think of that version of Onward? One of my favorite Yes songs.
Yeah, you're right on the money that it was, well, maybe deep cut is not the right word, which was what I was going to say, but I don't think it was performed live until the Keys to Ascension
Correct.
stuff. And then it's
and that's
possible,
a great version. That's just beautiful with the classical guitar, whereas Steve's playing his electric ES 175 here. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, and then I think it's possible that the In the Present tour may have been their first time performing it since those 1996 shows, and since then they've dug it out like once in a while, from what I remember. But
That video
yeah,
with Benoit from 2008,
yeah,
which is that tour. Yeah.
yeah, and like the In the Present tour, I remember that was the first Yes tour that happened after YouTube had become a thing because, you know, Yes were on hiatus for a little while. And there are like all these like cell phone clips and whatnot dripping from that tour and onto YouTube. And I remember seeing one of Onward on like was probably recorded on like a flip phone or something. Might have looked pixelated, but I could tell it was that song and it sounded really beautiful. And yeah, I think Benoit does a great job on this version that we've showed a little bit of.
Yeah. So we're celebrating Benoit David's birthday today. 57, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
57.
57, same age as Billy Sherwood. It's easy to remember because it's my sister's age, 3 years behind me.
Yeah, I think Billy is a year older.
Oh, really?
um
Oh, okay. So maybe it was at a certain time I saw how old he was, and he hadn't had his birthday yet that year. That's why I associate it with 3 years difference. But 57 years old, had a short stint with Yes, had issues with his vocal cords, had a dream come true, and then went away. Um, a little bit of, I think controversy is a fair word, Steve, when we look at
yeah,
Fly
yeah,
From
like
Here, right?
yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like about like yeah, his departure could have been handled better, but yeah, like that era in general, because you know people still want this, like wanted Jon Anderson back, and of course Benoit had big shoes to fill, as does any lead vocalist. But I think he did like a really great job, and people sort of came around on that era when they re-released some of the live stuff a few years ago. But yeah, Fly From Here was one that not everyone was into, but it definitely found its audience, especially with the drama fans. And you know, drama has become like considered more so a classic album over the last decade or so, I've noticed. And then a few years ago there was From a Page, which showed like the other side of that era, where it was like when Oliver was still in the band and you had like more Benoit sung songs. So
Right.
for this episode, we thought it'd be neat to sort of come up with customized track lists that sort of combine material from both of those albums into one cohesive Benoit David sung Yes album. And there are a couple ways to do
concert.
this. Um, Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that is funny. That's all I was thinking of. Even though you mentioned album when we posed the idea, you posed the idea, and even when you asked the audience, and I saw those posts, for some reason in my head, everything goes to live in concert. So I was thinking of it as a concert set as well. But we're gonna
Right, because you've said before that you prefer for an album to end with something that feels like it would close a concert in an epic way, right?
exactly as opposed to I get it. It just doesn't touch my sensibilities, but instead just cooling off with like Time is Time or Holy Lamb or I'd rather end the album with an exclamation point than a dot 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 ellipses.
Right.
It's just personal preference. Those are all great songs. It's just the way I like to see an emotional musical arc within a show or an album. That's all. But we're going to read some fan stuff who put together some lists. And then Steve has one. I don't know what it is. I have mine. He doesn't know what it is. And you could chime in as well. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm in Globe, Arizona. Steve's in Downey, California. And let us know if you saw the tour with Benoit, if you have a favorite work by Benoit. Some really great stuff, and I'm really, really grateful to Oliver Wakeman for putting out From a Page, because there's some really great music there that otherwise may not have seen the light of day, which is really cool. And that's a big part of what inspired us to put this show together to celebrate Benoit's birthday and have more context to his contribution to the band. Yes, and
Yeah.
whatever lineup you like, whatever album you like, it's that got them to the next stepping stone and on and on and on. So we are fans of every lineup. And this had turned out some really great music. I also want to mention that on a personal note, my opinion, Fly From Here, the packaging when that originally came out is awesome. The great artwork by Roger Dean, and it also came with the DVD that had the making of, which was really cool. I was a huge fan of the original Fly From Here live recording, the first bootleg that ever came out with that back in the day in 1980. I have it on reel to reel still on quarter-inch tape from Madison Square Gardens with Trevor Horn and Jeff Downes with Yes playing two songs that they recorded but didn't make it to the drama album. Fly From Here was one of them. The other was Go Through This. And when Fly From Here came out later as a suite and a full album, it was like, whoa! It was like, whoa. But then when they redid it and kind of removed Benoit from that equation, I don't know about that. That's like two parallel universes. It is Trevor Horn, immensely talented producer who was on the original recording. There's just some, I don't know. I don't know. I don't I don't have an opinion one way or the other on it. Just that it's weird. It's weird to just do that.
Yeah, like the Fly From Here suite is definitely, it has Trevor written all over it, but ideally we'd want both versions available. And I mean, I feel like if they were to re-release Fly From Here as like a box set as both versions, like all the different variations, there'd be a huge audience for that, I would
Definitely.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
a hint to Yes and whatnot.
We know you're watching. Let's, before we go through the fans' lists and comments and ours, let's show some more of Onward.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, check this out, folks, if I can find the right button. And earlier, during the beginning, my mouse swept across my bottom tray, and you see my list of notepad things up there. I'll do my best to kind of pretend I know what I'm doing here. save some of that for the outro. Great to see Chris doing his thing. I think the voices blend well. And what I'd like to know is whose idea was that to add it to the list after all those years for that tour. I wonder if it was his. I wonder if they said if you could choose one your wish song to do, what would it be? I wonder if it was Benoit's choice or if Steve said, "Hey, let's pull this out of the closet," and Benoit said, "You want me to sing what?" Because that like I said, is such a vocal feature, and then he's got to harmonize with Chris. Not that other songs he wouldn't do that, but it's all about the vocals to a degree in that song being way out front.
Yeah, I do vaguely remember an interview a long time ago when Benoit was asked what Yes song would he love to sing if he could choose one, and he said "Revealing Science of God." And
Oh,
unfortunately, he didn't get to do that with Yes. I'm sure he would have been great, but
and as
yeah,
would Oliver.
yeah,
I would love to have seen that lineup do that.
yeah, totally. Um, but yeah, so these albums, Fly From Here and From a Page, we kind of in this imaginary scenario where material from both are on one, we sort of titled it Fly From a Page, so
Hmm.
works
Turn
out.
from a here. Oh no, wait, never mind. So let's read some fan stuff, and we'll save our lists for last. I'll start with Nathan Tyler Lowry. Thanks for chiming in. He says that's easy, all but the Fly From Here suite. That's weird. He goes on to say, I respect it. It's just weird. He goes on to say, I like the suite, but I'm sure Benoit David was instructed to sing more like Trevor Horn in the suite than in any other recording. Give that to Trevor Horn on the return trip and keep the rest of the album and From a Page on an album featuring David singing as David does best. Into the Storm should feature prominently. That's fair. The way he explains it, I get that. That's good take, Nathan. I like that.
Yeah, like there are a couple of different ways people can do this. So one could include all of the tracks if they want to, or they could
And give us
take
an
out,
order.
yeah, or they could take out some if they feel like doing so emphasizes Benoit a bit better. And I totally get Nathan's reasoning here. Like we said, Fly From Here is very much Trevor Horn. I would say Life on a Film Set is as well. But yeah, if you take out the suite, one could argue that that keeps it from eclipsing the stuff where Benoit.
Yeah, I agree. Now, here's a question, though. As fair as Nathan's take is, and I totally respect that, if they had not released Fly From Here, and let me rephrase that. If they didn't re-release Return, if they didn't, you know what I'm saying, if they didn't do Return Trip with Trevor Horn, I don't know if that analysis could have been made by Nathan or anyone because there'd be nothing to compare it to
Well,
other than
I
the
think
live versions that I mentioned from 1980 that not many people are familiar with.
I think it's reasonable because even on the original version with Benoit, we both thought he sounded very much like Trevor Horn on that one. So it
But
was
we're
kind of
familiar with
impossible.
that. We're familiar with that version from 1980. Most people are not. It's not pressed on an official album. And I'm just saying it's an in hindsight analysis. Again, a fair one because it's real. It really happened that they
Yeah.
re-released
But
it.
I mean, the live version did get released on that live box set.
Okay,
The
well,
Word
once
is
again, you don't
live
know what you're talking
a
about.
few
Read the
years
next one.
prior.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm not taking away, Nathan, from your observation. It's very astute, actually. I didn't even that stuff didn't even occur to me. But I just kind of wonder, like, would that be the case if they didn't do Return Trip? But fair enough. Fair enough. And you're frozen, Steve. Is it cold there? There, you're back.
uh,
You're back.
oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Go
So
for
this
it.
next one from Joel Y. Perard says, I already kind of did this, but I used Fly From Here, Heaven and Earth, and From a Page, and made a double CD set.
Oh,
I
wow.
use I use all the music. I used all the music. I just spread it out differently as a 2 CD set. It was pretty interesting because I had fun with it. I like to use it in my car just because I'm not sure how it all goes anymore. So I think he's saying there that he doesn't remember how it all goes. So I'm wondering if he like still has that CD set or if
Yeah,
something happened. But uh, like mixing, like the idea for our show is mixing two albums, but mixing a third one by throwing in Heaven and Earth as well. That's an interesting experiment right there.
yeah. I'd love to have a version of the one with just all Benoit stuff. I would buy that from you, Joel. Cool. Next one we have, I believe it's Eric Toll. I would definitely emphasize the From a Page tracks, exclamation point.
Yeah. So
Again, grateful of Oliver bringing that out of the closet. You know, what a locked up treasure chest that might have stayed forever. Who knows? Oh man, you're frozen again. What's going on there? Now you're
oh
back. As soon
yeah,
as I say it, it unlocks. I must have the Midas touch.
oh yeah, you looked frozen for a moment, but I could still hear you. But
Okay.
um, so when Eric says he'd emphasize the From a Page tracks, I wonder if that means he would put them if as the first few tracks before any Fly From Here
Or louder.
stuff, or what?
Or louder than the other tracks.
Louder. That'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, it's actually a neat idea.
I mean, okay.
Go with Bills.
Yeah, so this next one from Bill Galetka, who said he'd done this with a blank CD for myself after From a Page came out, and here's what a great album it could have been. So first he has the Fly From Here suite, then The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be, followed by Life on a Film Set. So far it's the tracking order on Fly From Here, but then here's where things get different. To the Moment, so you got the first From a Page song there, then Words on a Page, Hour of Need, Into the Storm, The Gift of Love. And in total, that's 66 minutes and 47 seconds.
And
So-
by the way, I like, hey Eli, chiming in from Ohio. I love that Bill. First of all, I love that we're not the first ones to think of this, and these guys actually did it. You know, that's really cool. And Bill has the times for all the tracks, so this is great. I'm glad you thought of this idea. So, cheers to you for coming up with this idea, and cheers to these guys for actually making CDs like this long before we ever thought of it. That's a real hats off to Benoit.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the only From a Page song that's not on here is From the Turn of a Card. I just noticed. So I wonder what that's all about. But yeah, like this is a very interesting track list here.
And then we got something from Christopher Lee, who I'm sure the actor, right?
Yeah,
Who
Back
knows?
from Beyond the Grave.
Side one, oh, I love that he's got it in sides. Cool, as if it was an LP. That's really neat. Christopher Lee says side one, first track To the Moment. Next is Hour of Need. Then The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be. Then Words on a Page. Then Into the Storm. Then on side two, The Fly From Here Suite and Solitaire. He made this playlist and it flows really well. Give it a try. I love that people are doing this. Now, I have a question though. Is it fair to include The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be? Because that's the Chris Squire lead vocal song. And I think is it fair to include on their CDs? Yes, but I mean in the context of what we're talking about of Benoit David sung material, it's kind of a sidetrack. I mean, he probably sings backup, but
yeah, I can understand the reasoning for omitting it for that reason, but Benoit also sings like backing vocals,
harmonies on it
that
and
one.
stuff.
Yeah, harmonies. Solitaire, however, is a Steve Howe instrumental, and that one I wasn't quite sure about. I mean, I'm pretty much just giving people leeway, like
Sure.
not being too strict on the rules.
Especially
but-
if they've done it. They've actually done it. Like that's 3 people so far. That's a pretty high rate. It's great.
Right. I think it's interesting that Christopher puts Solitaire as the final track, kind of like an instrumental epilogue after the Fly From Here suite.
Yeah.
That's I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I like that as well. Peter Anderson says, excuse me, that was me. Peter didn't say that. Peter says, hi, guys. Hi, Peter. He says, newish convert here to Yes Shift. Thank you very much for following. We'll do our best not to screw it up. He says, it's now essential viewing. Wow, thank you very much. He says, thanks. I have opened the combined album with the strongest Yes performance and left out a few tracks over both albums. Finishing with the Fly From Here suite feels right. Don't worry, it wouldn't be the title track. And he says, I think this would flow well. He has Into the Storm, To the Moment, Hour of Need, Words on a Page, From the Turn of a Card, and Fly From Here suite. Cheers, Peter Anderson, Glasgow, Scotland. Awesome. Thanks for that. That's really nice. We got some great feedback from folks. And now,
Yeah, that's an interesting list because I'm so used to thinking of Into the Storm as a closing track.
Yeah.
But having it as the opening and the suite as a closer is kind of a game changer there.
Absolutely. Why don't you go with your list first?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, why don't you go with your list first?
Okay. So on my list, I'd open with To the Moment. I think it's the strongest. Well, maybe not the strongest from my perspective, but it feels like it would be a great opener for the album. Like, it gets the blood pumping, starts with a bang, as like, whoa, like what can these guys do? And then I'd go with Hour of Need. I think I'd go with the version that has like the extra bit at the beginning and end, like where
that's cool. Yeah,
it's a bit more rocking.
Yeah, I agree.
And then after that, Words on a Page. I kind of feel like those two would kind of flow together. They're both sort of softer songs. And then after that, I would put the Fly From Here suite. So I'd put it like right in the middle of this whole thing. And then after that, from the Man You Always Wanted Me to Be, then From the Turn of a Card. So you get like a sort of interesting thing where you hear Chris Squire on lead, and then you hear Benoit David singing differently from how we typically expect a Yes vocalist to sing. He sounds a bit more like his normal voice,
more
I guess
tenor.
you could say. Yeah, and then Life on a Film Set, followed by Into the Storm. And then if I were to include Steve Howe stuff, I think after that I would put Solitaire. And even though Benoit isn't on this next one either, I think putting Don't Take No for an Answer would be cool. But again, that's like sort of a gray area there. So, but the closing track either way would be The Gift of Love. And what was kind of the conundrum I was going through is on Fly From Here, I think it fits so well to bookend with the suite and Into the Storm, because Into the Storm has that little reprise of singing "And we can fly from here." So I feel like for that reason that works well as a closing track there. Whereas on From a Page, I think To the Moment and The Gift of Love make great bookends, because on The Gift of Love, you have that lyric where it's like, from the moment of awakening. So it's kind of a callback to the first track. So I was kind of like, which one do I choose as a closing one? And I ultimately went with The Gift of Love, because I think that vocal is more in the foreground, whereas on Into the Storm, the We Can Fly From Here part is more in the background. I'm not as audible. I don't think I even noticed it the first few times I listened to that song.
Same here.
And I also think The Gift of Love, like in my opinion, is the stronger of the two tracks. I just prefer it. So I think that's why I put The Gift of Love as my closer.
So before I read my list, which I made kind of a short list, it doesn't have The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be, because it's a Chris song, and
yeah, that's fair.
I stayed central to Benoit, but I got to ask a question because I may have goofed, and I'll be totally transparent if this is the case. But is there a song on Return Trip that's not on the original Fly From Here?
Just don't take no for an answer. The
Okay,
Steve
good,
Howe sung
good.
one.
Then I didn't goof. Okay, okay. So here's mine. I made a sandwich. Fly From Here, Riding the Tiger.
Oh, Life on a Film Set.
Oh, that's Life on a Film Set. Riding the Tiger. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
I mean,
that song.
to be fair, the demo by the Buggles, I think, had that title
Yeah,
originally.
I love that song. And then Into the Storm. Then From the Turn of a Card. Then Words on a Page. Then Hour of Need. I love that song. I love all these. Then To the Moment. And then We Can Fly Reprise
Mm.
to call back. And I mixed it up a bit, and I picked, other than The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be, I picked like all my favorites from both albums.
Okay.
And kept it short rather than taking everything and rearranging how I would see, you know what I mean, on one album. I did an abridged version of that, if you will.
Right. So for the Fly From Here is Sweet, he sort of separated it a bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, I thought it would be neat. It still tells a story, even though it's got elements from another, not the same story, if you will. But here's a question. Do you know whether or not, we just spoke to Joe Cass the other day. We should have asked him this. Has either Total Mass Retain or Awaken played anything from this era?
Not to my well, if they have, they maybe one of them or both of them have played something from Fly From Here. If they have, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't seen anything else.
I don't think either have played anything from a Page as of yet. But yeah, those would be deep cuts. I'd love to see a tribute band pull from either of those, or like even have Yes dig from a Page, and maybe Fly From Here stuff they haven't played in a while. So
here's an idea for an episode. Ready?
okay.
I'm not going to run it by you privately. I'm just going to throw it out there, and people can throw pies at me because some people just won't like this, and I'm okay with that. What about putting together an album or a concert, because you know how my brain works,
Right.
of a whole concert worth, let's call it 90 minutes to 2 hours, 90 minutes to 2 hours of Yes songs that are not of a John Anderson lineup.
Oh, that would be an amazing
Yeah.
concert.
It is. You've got Drama, you've got Fly From Here, you have From a Page, you've got Heaven and Earth, Quest, and now the new album. There's 6 albums there. Am I leaving anything
Yeah.
out?
No, yeah, that's all of them.
That's a
and-
lot of material. A lot of
Well,
bands don't even survive 6 albums.
Yeah, it's wild to think that now there are 6 Yes albums where it's not John Anderson as the lead vocalist.
But there's 48 others with John Anderson.
yeah, 40, maybe 49.
But I think
But-
that would be an interesting way of looking at the band's music to really see some of the elasticity and what they've been able to do without, the penultimate nectar of the band, which would be John's voice and spirit
Yeah.
of the, in my mind. I think that'd make for a great episode. And I think it really forced the hand of people, including us, doing some homework and putting some stuff on, and not just pulling from song lists, but really like an arc of a
Life.
concert. Yeah, arc of life. Yeah, I think that would really be a neat show.
Yeah, I'd love to do that episode. We'd have to wait until after Mirror to the Sky comes out, the new album.
Yeah, but what a neat product for Yes to put out. Even though a lot of
Yeah.
people will be like, it's blasphemy, it's sacrilege, it's
Yeah, I mean, John Davison said somewhere that like with Yes concerts, like you've got to play the classics, but it's also it adds an I feel like it adds a nice surprise whenever they throw a curveball, like throwing some newer material or some obscure
In
material.
Onward, that had to surprise everybody. I remember like Onward because we
Yeah.
saw that show.
Yeah. Um so like what would the limitation be again? Like 90 minutes or
90 to 120 minutes, like an hour and a half to 2 hour show.
okay,
And
yeah. I want to like add up like how much time these albums take up if all of the songs were
I,
included
I'd
and
say
see
on
if
average, they probably each average around 40 minutes.
yeah.
So
There are
six
a
times
couple of them
40.
probably an hour, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
there's a lot to choose from.
yeah, I'm sure we'd have to like really narrow it down and cut out some stuff. So that would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. So like, let's just pretend for a moment. If John Anderson ever got busted for robbing a bank or something,
Oh
taking
my gosh.
hostages, let him go. He let them go, but you force them to listen to Vangelis and John, who knows? And then he gets arrested, and Yes had to disassociate themselves. There's plenty of material there.
That was a wild ride you just took me on.
You're picturing it in your head, right? First he robs a bank. Now he's got hostages. Okay, he pulls out John and Vangelis.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I remember we recently talked about how he was late to a Zoom Q&A because he went to the bank. I forgot the time or
Oh,
something.
now you're onto it.
Yeah, but yeah, no, John Anderson wouldn't do that. But yeah, that's funny. Like if they were sort of forced to do non-John Anderson stuff. That's wow.
Yeah. Anyhow, hey folks, thanks for joining us. We will be back on. Do we have a date set? I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
We have to like figure some stuff out.
We're
and,
planning some stuff. Steve and I are extremely busy with our other company, Drum Talk TV, the largest online media company covering the world of drumming. We have our 10-year anniversary show. If I could give a plug, Steve, on May
Right.
20th. You could scan that QR code. I'll hold it there for a moment. Scan the code. Come see us. It's going to be more than a concert. Jeff Berlin's going to be my co-host. We're going to unpack the Drum Talk TV story. There's going to be performances, including my old band from the 70s, Assault, with our guest lead vocalist, Chaz West from Bonham, Foreigner, and Westbound, and my bros of 42 years, Rick Zuccaro and Carl Inman. We're going to knock out an hour and a half of music towards the end of the show. And there's VIP packages. Come celebrate with us in Las Vegas, May 20th. We're extremely busy with that. And the fact that we are releasing the beginnings of a membership site, a subscription site built in a 3D metaverse that I'm overseeing the construction of right now. It's just, I can't believe how much is on our plate right now, Steve, and planning other things for the year. So that's why Steve's saying we have to figure out our schedule. But we'll get at least one more show in, maybe 3 before that, because Rick's birthday is in May, right?
Yeah, and
So we've
like
got,
his bills and Jay's are like around the same time that month.
okay, so we'll do that even if they're separate episodes. So you'll see more of us. If you're new to us, like some of you are, and if we haven't pissed you off too much, please dig into our video catalog on YouTube at youtube.com/@YesShift or at facebook.com/YesShift. If you're into podcasts, dig into the catalog at anchor.fm/YesShift. And they can't write to us or anything, can they, Steve?
Yeah, they can do so at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Send us suggestions, feedback. We might read stuff on the show, and
Yeah, we do that a lot.
We love people tuning in. Actually, been meaning to. I saw Brian Cahoon comment a bit ago saying Benoit David, a hell of a vocalist,
And boat maker.
Yeah, he also said The Quest, a good choice. So yeah, like we're really grateful for those of you who tune in. Like it's always great whenever we get messages from people saying that like us doing this like really makes a difference for them and it like helps their day and
That's
whatnot.
cool.
So,
That
yeah.
makes me feel good. And you can donate to us through the anchor.fm channel. And on the topic of support, I want to give a shout out to Christopher Lee, Eric Toll, and Joel Y. Pirard, unless that's two people, and it's Joel E. Pirard is in Spanish. And if you send us an email of how we can purchase those CDs you made, I would buy them for both Steve and I.
Well, I feel like that's a tricky thing because it's not their product, so I feel like we shouldn't be purchasing.
Well, I would
those.
donate to them. I would pay for the shipping at least.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would do that.
I just don't want us getting into like hot
No,
water.
yeah, I'd trade it for a Drum Talk TV shirt. How's that? And you guys could pick out your own shirt. So let us know. I think
Right.
that'd be fun stuff. They went to all that work, and I think it'd be fun to share the love.
Right. Or they could just tell us the track lists and we make a YouTube playlist or something. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Next episode, put a 2-hour concert together with no. I'm kidding. We'll figure out when we're going to cover that. We'll work with the birthdays first because we got some biggies coming by. By the way, one last thing.
Yeah, we got people to, yeah.
Yeah, at the Drum Talk TV celebration, we're going to be flying in tons of videos during the show on a big screen above the stage. And some of those people who have wished us happy anniversary include Bill Bruford, Jay Shellen, Billy Sherwood, Steve Howe. The list goes on. A lot of other great musicians, some from the world of Yes and Asia, Carl Palmer. So come see us. We would love to see you.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to stream it, but pretend you don't know that. If you're able to come, just come in person. If you're in Sweden, I would understand. If you're in Germany, I would understand.
All right. So again, happy birthday to Benoit David, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.